Michael Whitfield clap. All right, welcome back. Officially week 1 NFL season. Get hype. Welcome back. Hope everyone's fantasy teams are ready to roll. Week 1 fantasy football podcast brought to you by Victory Lap Media. Seth, Noah, all your teams set, roster set, any last moves maybe coming up before Thursday's game. Today is Tuesday, September 8th. Or Wednesday, September 8th. I'm a fucking idiot. 1 day away from the season opener. The Bucs are hosting the Dallas Cowboys. Current line is 8, over-unders 51.5. Noah and I were just looking at that. So we'll talk about that part at the end just for fun. But how are we feeling, guys? How are you guys' balls tingling? How's the tingle factor?
I'm ready to go.
I'm at the point where I'm tired of talking about
I just want to sit down and watch
the stuff behind the fantasy, drafting and stuff. I just want to watch football.
Gosh, I can't wait to just fucking rail 20 twisted teas in a day. It's just gonna be magnificent.
Yeah. That first Sunday always hits different.
Yeah, and we had college football this past week, kind of the icebreaker. It was a decent slate for week 1, but kind of overhyped in terms of how many good games there end up being. IU Hoosiers got absolutely fucked in the ass.
Yeah, I went to the game and it was pretty.
Oh, you went to the game?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you visited Josh. Shout out Josh Stevens.
We left beginning of the 4th. I think Josh may have stayed the whole game, but dude, it was brutal.
Yeah,
it was not a good game. It was a cool.
Noah's a Purdue fan. They beat the Beavers. They covered the 7.5 that I had on them. So shout out Boilermakers.
Xander scored a touchdown, so we're all shout out Xander.
Trash touchdown at the end. They were up 2 with 2 minutes. Probably could have went down, or knelt the clock out, but they scored to cover for us. So.
But back to the main point, college football, it got us through the week before NFL starts. So we want to go through some updates real quick, some roster changes to the actual NFL teams, not our personal fantasy football team for the Victory Lap League. Seth, you want to talk about some of the new roster additions that we've seen in the NFL this week?
Yeah, so starting off, which many people thought he was going to go to the Ravens, but was Latavius Murray getting released by the Saints. And it was a hot spot rumor that he was going to go to the Ravens. They ended up signing Le'Veon Bell. So, and they're still working on a couple other backs. So that could affect Gus Edwards. Maybe. I still think he's an unquestioned starter, but anytime you bring in another back, it's a little cause for concern. But, regarding the Saints, it looks like Tony Jones is going to be the backup. So former Notre Dame guy will begin the backup role.
Wait, who signed? Didn't the team sign Wayne Gallman?
Oh yeah, the Falcons. So they dropped
Falcons.
Yeah, they dropped Allison, Quadri, and they signed Gallman. So.
That could be very similar to the Saquon injury year. I mean, Mike Davis kind of older. He's a big dude, so he's got a lot more weight falling on his. I mean. I'm not saying this but it's true. He's a bigger dude, so it's a bit easier for his lower extremities to get worn down and possibly break. So, I mean,
yeah. And the thing with the Falcons, I don't think if there's situations if Zeke gets hurt, Tony Pollard becomes an unquestioned running back 1. If Mike Davis gets hurt and Gallman's the starter, he's probably not a running back 1, but he's probably a good RB2. Which
he's probably getting at least half the carries.
That's honestly kind of how I feel about Mike Davis himself.
Yeah.
Even without Gallman there, I don't know. I've never been too high.
I didn't take Mike Davis in any of my 4.
I didn't even really consider him at any point.
I mean, his ADP was kind of low for a clearly number 1 on a team, but I mean,
probably for a good reason.
You're right. You basically have a fullback as your running back. So I mean.
Well, last year, was Gurley still a starter last year for
they went through a few running backs, I feel.
But even then, he wasn't an RB1, and he was the starter for the first at least half of the year, and so.
So our matchup in the league, we mentioned it the week after we had our draft. We are facing Zach Zahender. He actually had the first overall pick. So we're going up against Christian McCaffrey week 1 and then again in week 12 when we'll have to play him the second time, obviously. So back to the projections. They've updated a little bit. I mean, nothing crazy. We are projected to lose by fucking 12 points, but that's remembering that we lost our 3rd round pick. And we've had to go from J.K. Dobbins in our flex. We don't have Gus Edwards to Marquez Callaway, which I'm cool with that. He has big boom potential, so that's not terrible. And then we've opted for Jerry Jeudy in our wide receiver 2 role over Odell. I think there's a lot of questions about Odell. I don't know if he's in. We're going to do hater we're going to call it studs or duds list later, but I don't know if you guys had Odell in any of your list, but I mean, Odell it's kind of scary to start Odell week 1.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's any other questions about our list as of right now. Might reference back to it later, but yeah, Zach's team, when we went through the evaluations for teams in our league, I think we all had Zach as like a top 3 or top 4 team. So, oh well, we went through an injury of a top 3 player before the season gets going, so it's not really our fault. Any other comments about the league or our team?
He also has James Robinson in his flex, who's gained a little value recently. So, because he drafted him knowing ETN was still there, like healthy, and he had him in his flex. So now having like that good of value in your flex does not really help.
So, like we lost a good chunk.
We lost our flex. He gained like a top option. So
yeah, he pretty much got a strong high RB2 in his flex. So drafts that were before the ETN versus after the ETN injury is definitely a big difference on the James Robinson ADP. It's probably like a 5.5 round difference.
Same with Gus Edwards too.
Because I think after the injury, I think I took James Robinson in the league 4th pick of the 3rd round. So I mean, you can see the difference there. Anything else?
No, that comes to mind.
Too much, yeah.
Cool.
We're to get some studs and duds.
We'll do a recap of the league scoreboard after each week. So this is week 1. So each week following, we'll do the recap of the week before. All right, studs and duds. This is basically our version of hate, love, start, sit, whatever you want to call it. But we're going to call it studs and duds. Seth, we'll have you go first.
All right. Do you want to go like one stud, one dud?
Oh wait, yeah, maybe just to clarify real quick. Obviously we're not going to say like obvious fucking stupid shit. These are going to be more guys whose ADPs put them in like kind of your flex area, or like your wide receiver. You're picking between like your wide receiver 2 on a bench or running back 2 on a bench. So kind of those 3 positions, where even tight end too, because some teams kind of wait on tight ends and then they'll draft 2 tight ends. So maybe you have one of the guys, if we ever talk about a tight end in one of these lists too.
Yeah. So I'll start with like it's 2, but it's kind of like, I mean, it's 2. It's definitely 2. But from the same game. So I'm going to go with Brandon Cooks and Laviska Shenault as my studs this week. I think, especially I'll start with Shenault because I have both these guys on various teams. So maybe I'm a little biased as well, but I think their matchups are very, very well for them. You know, playing each other, the Texans and the Jaguars, you can't get much better than that.
Yeah.
Brandon Cooks, he's unquestioned wide receiver 1 there. I know it's going to be Tyrod Taylor, so not as much upside as Deshaun Watson throwing to him, but he's really the only wide receiver that I can honestly name at this point on the roster. And then Shenault, I think it's Trevor Lawrence's first game, but I think this guy's got a lot of untapped potential, and having him throw it to him versus Gardner Minshew and whoever else was throwing to him last year is just going to boost his value. So those are 2 of my guys that I really like this week.
Okay.
Did you want me to do all of my studs?
No, or you had more studs?
Well, that was 2. I guess my third one was kind of just all the Bengals wide receivers this week against the Jets. So T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Tyler Boyd. Pick your poison, whoever you got. I like all of them this week.
Yeah, I'm facing our buddy who does some other of the Victory Lap episodes, but facing Will Lyman in one of our leagues this week, and it has I think it has T. Higgins projected for over 16 points in his flex, and I'm like, what the
Jeez.
fuck? Where did that come? I know it's a Jets, but like, the
Yeah.
ball is definitely getting spread around more than like nut sucking on Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree. I don't think they're going to be. It's going to be hard for anyone to be like a true wide receiver one this year, just because they're going to spread the ball around. But I think flex, any of them are going to be flex worthy. Pretty much all year.
I feel like they all should be projected between like 11.5 and like 14 and a half. Like,
yeah, I have him in a fantasy league in ESPN. He's projected 12.6, so that's about the range that.
Okay. What about I'll go next. So we'll do all the studs first, and then we'll do all the duds. So my two studs, they're both going to be running backs. First one's going to be Chase Edmonds. Big question mark on this guy going into the year. Not like the most consistent guy last year, but definitely like last year, kind of a lower floor than a lot of people would be comfortable with, but definitely like a high enough ceiling towards the end of the season too. Bouncing off like with Kenyon Drake, or not Kenyon. Yeah, Kenyon Drake. Yeah. But now not as much competition in Arizona. A little more comfortable with Kyler too. Hopefully, like some of those option plays, he'll get more of a benefit from. But the Cardinals are playing the Titans. The Titans finished last season with the 24th ranked run defense. They average giving up 127 yards per game to the run, which I wouldn't consider Chase like a super heavy like PPR running back, but he'll definitely get like some receptions in there too. But I don't know. I think for Chase Edmonds, I think in a lot of leagues he was going like fifth round, middle of fifth round, sometimes end of the fourth. But I think you can comfortably start him with the situation against this Titans defense that has proven nothing lately. And then my other stud is going to be Gus Edwards against the Raiders. Kind of a pretty similar defensive situation to the Titans, especially from last year. So the Raiders finished last season with the 23rd ranked defense against the run, giving up 125 yards per game. And we know the two running back injuries around Gus Edwards entering week one. If I'm Harbaugh week one, I'm going to get Gus as many touches as I can and kind of see and test this offense and say, hey, is this a guy we can rely on being like almost a 3-down back, or get like 75% of the touches? Can he take some of these goal line inside the 10-yard red zone touches? So I think it's going to be a good test week for Gus Edwards, and he should, even with a high volume, maybe not scoring every play, that he should benefit very highly from the situation of week one. And that's it.
Nice. All right. So I have one running back and one receiver. I have them at the top of my list. For my running back, I'm going to go with Raheem Mostert. Yeah, he's got Trey Sermon with him, but I feel like week one is probably the best time to start him because he's got the number one role. So they're going to give him number one snaps, and they're playing the Lions, who gave up the most fantasy points to running backs last season. So those are usually the stats I look for when I'm like debating, like how is the defense they're facing against fantasy points and running back. It's not like, NFL stats may be a little different, but like the Lions obviously have a bad defense for everything, but fantasy wise, they're also pretty bad. So Raheem Mostert, I mean, he's going to catch some balls. He's going to get number one carries, I think, at least for this week. So that's why I really like him here against the worst running team in the league. So I would definitely start him this week if you have him. Receiver. So I'm a big believer in revenge games. And I got Robbie Anderson against the Jets with Sam Darnold throwing to him. I feel like there's no better chance for Robbie Anderson to have a top performance out of anyone. I like him a lot, like this season in general. I think reuniting with Sam Darnold, they had some good chemistry back in New York. So switching over to a better offense overall, I think a better coach overall. I really like Robbie Anderson a lot this year. Probably could be like a wide receiver 2. Definitely a flex, but wide receiver 2 I could even see him as, and then Mostert for like a running back 2. So I do like the value there of where those guys are being drafted and could definitely be put in your starting lineups.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting that you threw Robbie Anderson in there because one of the leagues I'm in, I actually have been going back and forth between who to put in my flex, and it's actually between Gus Edwards and Robbie Anderson. So
that's a good problem to have.
It is I agree with it. I feel like it's not going to make a huge difference. I'm at this point with both of them having. I feel like Gus has a higher floor for week 1, but I feel like Robbie definitely has the higher ceiling. So I think if looking at the final projection against my opponent in a situation like this, if the matchup is really close, like the numbers are really close, like our projected totals, I will probably go with more of the boom guy. Or no, I would go with the safe guy. If I'm projected to lose, I would go with the boom guy. And if I'm projected to win, I would go with the safe guy too. It's only really close when the projections are really close. Like, do you go safe? Like, do you want to leave 30 points?
Yeah, that's why it's also nice if I always like if you're between a flex and both guys play like either the late game Sunday or Monday night, so you see kind of how the rest of your guys do, and if like, hey, I only need 10 points, which guy's gonna be more likely? But
and Gus does play in the Monday night game. And one of my running backs is already McCaffrey. So starting from the same team but it's Robbie and McCaffrey. So I guess it's not the same role. All right. Anyway, on to duds. Seth, 2 duds.
2 duds. Okay. This one might be a little hot take-ish, but I don't really like Chris Carson this week. I know you probably don't have many better options.
I have him on my list. That's a double dud.
See, great minds think alike. But yeah, I can do a third one if you're going to talk more about it. But
no, I think it's almost better that like we both have him on our list. Like if Noah would have had him on his list too. I mean, it's like everyone just fucking.
Yeah, I
didn't, by the way.
You might not have a better option, so you might have to start him just because you maybe want wide receiver early, so you might have to start him, but don't expect great things from him. I think the Colts defense, the Colts run defense especially, that front 7 is tough. They're playing in Indianapolis. It's a recipe for like a less than 10 point.
Right. Like if your next running back on your team is like fucking David Johnson, we're not telling you to start David Johnson over Chris Carson. We're just saying we don't think Chris Carson's going to do as well as what he's projected to do. And maybe there's a guy closely projected to those points on your bench, and possibly you could start over him in the RB2 or the flex spot.
Yeah. And then the next guy I have is who I think is going to be a stud. I do have him in a league or so, is Javonte Williams for the Broncos. He's been drafted in the, 5th, 7th roundish, which is a kind of guy where you expect to start in a lot of times. But I think early on, especially, Melvin Gordon is going to get the bulk of those carries. The coaching staff in Denver is more old school with Vic Fangio and their coordinator. So they're going to give Melvin Gordon all the opportunity to, take the job early on. And I would stay away from him. You probably have a better option, hopefully, if he's not your RB2. But he's another guy that I think he's going to be good this year, but I would stay away from him early half of the year, though. So those are my 2 duds. I had Saquon Barkley too, but you're probably going to start him if he's playing. So that's like not a question, but I don't think he might not even play either. So.
Well, like I said, one of my duds is also Chris Carson. They're going up against the Colts. So Seth is a Colts fan, so he knows just in his brain how good the Colts defense is. So last year the Colts finished second against the run, second with run defense. They only allowed an average of 90.8 yards on the ground. Chris Carson was going a lot in kind of similar spot to Chase Edmonds. I feel like they kind of went like they were like really close in ADP this year. So Chris Carson a lot of the times is definitely going to be like RB2 flex, kind of same position we've been talking about. So yeah, if you got another running back, I think Chris Carson could come out of this week one with like 4 or 5 points, unfortunately. But I have him in one of my leagues, and I think I'm still going to start him. I'll have to double check on another guy on my bench, but I'm probably still going to start him. I'm just like worried about his performance against the Colts. And I mean, Russ is such a good fucking passer in the beginning of seasons too. So like, he like Carroll might just be like, Russ, just
a bandit. Yeah,
go,
and the
go
Colts
throw for 450.
Even
and the Colts defense is generally solid all around, but if there's a weakness, it's their second cornerback position. So DK or Lockett could really have a day.
Yeah, I mean the edge rushers and the linebackers for the Colts are both good. So even like little check down screen passes or whatever to Chris Carson might be a little limited in PPR settings. And then the guy on our team, unfortunately, in the Victory Lap League, that is my second dud. That I think we would have had a really good backup before he got hurt, but my dud is Mike Gesicki against the Patriots. Patriots back to a fully stocked defense. Last year, without a bunch of guys, they only allowed 222 in the air against all receivers. We drafted Irv Smith in like the 13th or 14th round for the Victory Lap League, which honestly right now, if he was still on our team and didn't get injured for the season, like I probably would start Irv Smith over Mike Gesicki this week.
Yeah, no, I agree. That was one of my deep sleepers this week was Tyler Conklin, the backup for the Vikings are playing the Bengals.
Yeah.
So I think if you're really desperate, he could be an option.
Yeah, he's available in a lot of leagues.
The Vikings also don't really have like a number 3 receiver either, so
no.
Right.
It definitely helps.
I don't know. I know Gesicki, like kind of similar to how Seth compared it to like Williams, like very high on him for the season, but not a very good week one matchup. And a lot of people that went and got Gesicki with their first pick are most likely people that have a backup tight end on your bench, kind of waiting for weeks like this with the bad matchups. So definitely consider whoever your backup is, maybe like a Tyler Higbee or even like, oh man,
Tanyan or Jonnu.
Tanyan,
kind of range.
Even honestly, now you can't really start a Patriots tight end this week because you don't know the Hunter Henry versus Jonnu Smith.
Yeah,
I would be ready on the waivers to try to pick one of them up if one of them get a.
Yeah, no, I could see Jonnu like taking off. I mean, if I had to choose one of them to start this week, I'd probably go Jonnu. But it is risky. You don't know how Bill Belichick's going to use those guys yet. So,
all right. What about you, Noah? What are your studs?
So my first one, it pains me to say, but I have Allen Robinson.
Piss.
Only for the fact that Andy Dalton is starting at quarterback.
And the Rams have like the
Rams have, I think, the best defense in the NFL.
He's not Jalen Ramsey.
Against the pass,
yeah.
I think Darnell Mooney's gonna make him his fucking son again.
If Justin Fields was starting, I would not have him on my list because I think with his playmaking ability, then Robinson would have way more catches and targets. But as we saw Nick Foles last year against the Rams in LA, that offense was a complete shit show.
It's so bad.
And I'm not looking forward to it again. So I'm not very high on Allen Robinson this week. You might not have a choice but to start him based off guys you drafted behind him, but I wouldn't expect too much. If he's your number one receiver, then I wouldn't be feeling very confident unless your running backs are really good.
Allen Robinson could definitely have like 2.5 points going into the second half of this game.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't expect much from the Bears offense in general. Maybe Montgomery could sneak in a touchdown there, but I just don't see anything from that passing game, especially. And it sucks to say.
Cole Kmet.
Yeah.
Hey.
Never know.
All right. Fuck
So
it.
my other one's a little more interesting. It's a quarterback. Justin Herbert. I got Justin Herbert.
Whoa! Against the Washington.
The football team.
The football team, man. That defense, I think, is going to be a top 3 defense this year, if not even like the top defense. Obviously, I'm talking about how good the Rams defense is, but Washington's just like right up there with them. Other than Keenan Allen, I don't really trust his other targets. Yeah, he's got Eckler, but I think overall Washington's defense got better. They drafted a linebacker, which was like their biggest hole in that good defense. So I don't know, man. I just don't think – I think Herbert could throw for at least a touchdown, maybe 2. But with his value, where he's been drafted in like the 6th round, maybe.
Yeah, I was thinking about putting Mike Williams on my dud list, but I was like, his ADP is like really low to like really mention.
I feel like he's a stutter. Like he's either going to catch 2 passes for 100 yards and a touchdown, or he's,
Well, I just think with how good the quarterbacks are this year, there's definitely a lot of better options than him. So that's kind of how I see it. Like I had a couple of quarterbacks that I was going to talk about studs if I needed to. Like Nagy and I were talking before we started this. Like I'm really high on like Jalen Hurts this week. So if you like luckily got Jalen Hurts, maybe like in the 10th or 11th round, I love that value there. So weeks like this where Justin Herbert's playing a top defense, and weeks like when Jalen Hurts is playing one of the worst passing defenses, that's where it benefits you the most. But I'm just not a big fan on Herbert this week. And most people should have a good enough backup quarterback where they'll put up the same, if not better points than him this week.
All right. Yeah. So that's going to be all our studs and duds going into week 1. So last thing we're going to talk about game 1, 2021-2022 NFL season, Thursday Night Football, Super Bowl reigning champions, fucking Tom Brady fucker. They're going to raise the was it second ever Super Bowl for Tampa Bay?
I don't know. Who knows?
I think it's their second. So they're going to raise a banner, probably put it on that whack ass ship that they have in their stadium. So they're hosting the Cowboys, 8-point favorites right now, over under 51.5.
I think I take the Cowboys.
I also would.
Cowboys in the under.
I would side with the Cowboys, but Noah and I talked about how we're going to do like if you're doing like a same game parlay, I would like tease the Cowboys spread up to like maybe 10. Like 11.5. Yeah, 10ish, 11.5.
I do like that under though. I think 50 points. It's like 50% chance of rain too.
I love the under.
I'm hit or miss because the Bucs defense is great, but also I don't know. I could see it being a shootout too.
I mean, if Dak is like actually like somewhat hurt still going into this game, like.
Well, they're also not gonna have Zach Martin either, so that's
like Zeke could be fed like fucking cereal. I'm not. So I love the under. What do we think?
One's questionable. So
let's all give a prediction for first touchdown of the NFL season.
Oof.
I got Antonio Brown.
I think we may have talked about it last time. I think I said Michael Gallup, so I'm going to stick
with that.
Yeah,
I might have literally asked this exactly.
No, you didn't ask because I think Noah wasn't on the last.
Yeah, I think it was just me and Seth. Okay.
I think I said Michael Gallup, so I'll stick with Gallup.
Okay, that's cool because I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, I just don't see the Cowboys scoring first unless they get the ball.
I think in the last episode, I'm pretty sure I said Ronald Jones.
I think you did, yeah.
Yeah.
I could see CD. Everybody's like, "Oh, here's CD's breakout."
But now the fucking Bucs have a 3 running back system, so
yeah.
I was pretty big on Antonio Brown this week too. I didn't talk about it because I had some other guys, but like Chris Godwin's questionable, so who knows what his like availability will be. And Tom Brady already loves Antonio Brown, so I think he led their team in receptions per game last season in the games that he played. So I could see him getting like 50 to 60 yards and a touchdown. But I don't know. I won some big money on Gronk scoring the first touchdown in the Super Bowl, so
You might.
I might sprinkle that a little. Just
Yeah,
for-
I can see. I can see a guy that's like him or like OJ Howard or
Cameron
like
Brate.
Blake Jarwin, somebody like that, score the first touchdown.
See, Blake Jarwin's not a terrible option because he's the starting tight end, so he's gonna be a target.
All right.
He's like,
No context. You don't. I'm just gonna ask, and you say one team. What's one underdog? It could be a touchdown underdog. It could be like a 2-point underdog. What's like one underdog you think could win this week?
let me pull up this.
Yeah, I'll have to pull up the matchups.
Let me see. I'm pulling up the
Just like
side.
you don't even have
Like
to
just the
go
cover
really-
or just like to win out.
No, to win.
Okay.
To win. Give me one
I
sec.
think I had one in mind. I'm gonna look at the list real quick, but I had one in mind that
Okay, I'll go.
it's not the
Yeah,
big.
you go first. Let me look.
I'm
it's
going
not
with the Bengals.
Damn it! that was my pick. But let's go. That was
'Cause
actually my pick.
Fuck the skull.
I got the Jets.
Hell yeah.
I'm a big Zach Wilson believer.
I like Zach too. All right, Seth, final one.
I did. My backup will be. This is tough. I'm gonna go. Dallas. I'll go Dallas.
There you go.
That's respectable. Okay.
See if
So take those picks with what you will. Sponsored, not sponsored by FanDuel Sportsbook.
and
Sponsored, not sponsored. But again, if you guys have questions about like studs or duds for week 2 after this week, especially after you figure out your team a little bit, make sure you DM us on our main Twitter or comment underneath this episode. Our Twitter is Victory Lap Media, or you can just reply to our newest tweet, or any other stuff you guys want us to talk about. So, you guys have any last thoughts?
No, I think it's good that people send like their starter sit question because it help. These are questions that help us too. To just talk it over with you guys, and it'll help us as well. It might be there. Hey, should I start this guy, that guy? But somewhere out there, somebody else has that same question. So,
right.
I think it's helpful.
What about any last thoughts going into week 1?
Start Justin Fields.
God, fucking hope so. All right, guys. Thanks again for listening. See you
Next week.
next week. Yeah, I think
Tuesday or Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, anywhere between Tuesday and Thursdays. There's no promise, but just turn notifications on Twitter and you'll see. So, but thanks again for listening. Let's go. NFL's back. Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. Love you all.